Hey crafters, and welcome to Tulip's DIY Treasures. I'm your host Corinne, and today we are going to talk about Cricut Design Space 101. So today's video we are going to be going over some Design Space basics, kind of a 101 tutorial for our Cricut Design Space. So as usual, we're going to start with our Cricut Design Space open. You're going to get logged into the system. And once you get logged in, this is your home page. There's featured images and different crafts that are available through the Cricut Design Space, your projects, videos and tutorials, and then other projects listed below. But we're going to work on our own custom project. So you can always start up at the top by going to your projects or selecting new project in the top right hand corner. And from there, you will be brought to your project board. Up in the top left, you have your hamburger menu. This is where you have your profile information. You can go back to that home page. You can view your canvas, which is what this is right here. Your workspace. This is also where you would set up a new product. So if you have a Cricut that you haven't set up yet, where you can calibrate your Cricut. Manage custom materials. This will depend on the type of Cricut that you have. You can actually set up custom materials for how much pressure you want your blade to go, what type of equipment that you're using, what type of material you're using, whether it's vinyl, iron-on. It has its preset settings, but if you find that cutting a certain thing works better if you customize it, you can actually save those custom settings in here. Updating your firmware, details about your account, linking cartridges. If you have one of the old school Cricut machines that actually use the cartridges, you can link those here so you don't have to repurchase those items. Cricut Access, this is a monthly subscription. And if you sign up for it, you get projects and things for free, different fonts, different images, those types of things. And we'll look at that in just a minute. Settings for your Cricut. So how you want your design space to look, where you want to save things, if you want it saved for the cloud or to your cloud and your computer. How you want your canvas to look. So right now mine's currently in full grid just because I like to use the different squares and things to help me center and align my projects. You can select a partial grid where it's just larger squares, so it goes in the 1-inch squares. Or you can do no grid, so it's just a plain blank canvas behind you. So this is where you can go to change that. Again, I prefer full grid just because it helps me to design my spaces a little bit better. And then you can change the way that it measures as well. Then under the hamburger menu, there's just some other options. Legal information, what's new, country, some help, and then signing out of your account. Below the hamburger icon, you have new. This is where you would start a new project if you're already working on something and you want to now start a new canvas. You have the templates option. So if you want to see what your project is going to look like on the template that you're making it for, so if you're making an apron, for me, a lot of the times my templates are shirts, so I'll pull this in. And it'll bring in a template of what that shirt will be so that you can align your project on the canvas itself that you're going to be using so that you can see how it lays out on that before you actually cut it. If you don't want the template on there, then you would just come down to the bottom right over here where you say baseball t-shirts and then click on the eyeball and it will now hide my template. Okay, so again, that's templates. Got all sorts of different things, banners, uh, all different templates that you'll be creating your projects for. Below the templates icon is the projects icon. This is where a lot of the Cricut Access information is going to be. So different projects that people post, that Cricut post. You do have to be subscribed to Access for anything that has this green flag next to it. Again, that's the monthly subscription. Or there are some that are free that you can just access that people upload and share. The next is shapes. So if you need to add a shape to your canvas, so let's say you're making a project that says, I love you, and instead of love, you want a heart, you can bring that shape in. And there are free ones that are just included, kind of the standard shapes. And then there's some more detailed, different shaped ones that are part of the Cricut Access, or you can always buy any items from the Cricut Access individually for a fee, and then you'll own those going forward to that account. So you can either pay the $9.99 a month, I believe, for the Cricut Access, or you can buy just one shape for 99 cents, and you can keep it for as long as you have your Cricut account. Once you add a shape to your canvas, you can then resize it by using these arrow icons. I can stretch it as big as I want or as small as I want. You can unlock so that if you want to maybe make it a longer heart, you can rotate it if you need to put it on a different rotation or you wanted it kind of an angle. And if you decide that doesn't work for you or you want to do something else, you just click the X and it will remove it from your canvas. Images is very similar to how the projects works. It's if it has the green tab, you do have to be subscribed to Cricut Access to have it, or you can purchase them for a single fee. And again, you would own those until as long as you have your Cricut Design Space account. There are some projects that are free, and it shows you if they are cut projects by showing you the little scissors icon here. There's different options that you have. You can filter for just the free ones if you don't want to subscribe to the Cricut Access plan that you can just add into any of your projects. Or you can even search by the material type that you're looking to use. All different types of options here for the filters. Under text, this would be adding text to your canvas. So you type what you want in here, and then once you click out of it, it will add it to your screen, to your canvas. And again, you can resize just by dragging it with the arrow icon. You have your font selections up here at the top. So in your fonts, you have all. So these are ones you have purchased, ones that are already included on your computer, as well as items that you can purchase, or if you have the Cricut Access that you can use those. Under the system section, this is things that are already included on your system, whether they're preloaded free ones from Cricut or fonts that you have downloaded yourself or are already associated with your computer. I will link in our video below the link to how to upload your own fonts to the Design Space. We did a video on that a couple weeks ago, so I'll go ahead and link that in the event that you want to upload your own fonts to the system. Okay. And then the third one over is Cricut. So this is anything that is associated with the Cricut Access. Again, as long as you're subscribed, you do have access to these. Otherwise, you can purchase them at a flat rate if you want just one instead of access to all of them. You can search for fonts. So if you know the font name that you have, you can search here so that it filters it for you. Uh, this only kerned fonts, if you have that box selected, will only display fonts with optimal spacing between each letter. This isn't something that I ever really have played with, but that option is there. And then you do have filters as well. So you can put it for fonts that are just your fonts. If they're multi-layer fonts, if you're doing like a stackable print, a single layer writing, or downloaded. So any fonts that you've downloaded through the Cricut Design Space. If you're selected on the font, again, that's where you change your font name. You can change the style, so you can put it in bold. You can do italic. You can change it just like you can with any Word document. Font size, you can change through here by using the arrows up and down to make bigger or smaller. Or again, as I mentioned earlier, you can just use these arrows to either stretch it bigger or shrink it smaller. Letter spacing, this you can customize how much of a space you want in between each of the letters. So obviously the bigger you go, the more space there is between the letters. Or you can go the reverse and get them closer. I like to use this when I'm using cursive, just so those letters get closer and actually look like it's in cursive and written together. You can always go in and type what you want as well, and it'll auto change it for you. Line spacing, just like in a Word document, how much space you want in between the lines that you make. So for example, if I add another line here, and now I come in, it's going to make the difference between the rows just a little bit further or bring them closer together, depending on what you want to do. Alignment, this is going to be, again, just like using a Word document, left align, center, or right. So if you want them centered so that they space evenly over each other, maybe you want the text all to the right. So you can change your alignment here. When you have multiple lines, the curve option is not available. But if you did want to curve this maybe to go around an image, you can come up here and you can curve your writing and your text. So maybe if you wanted, to put a smiley face or a circle or any kind of design around it and have this go around, you can do this. And then you can also do the reverse and have it go the opposite way. Okay, but again, this is only going to happen if you have a single row of font. If you have multiple rows, then you will not be able to use the curve. So you may have to add a separate text. And then now I can curve this way. And curve that one up. Advanced, for here, this is where you can ungroup the letters. So let's say, for example, you want a little bit more space in between your words, but not in the letters, or you want to move something so that it's closer. Like how this Y is kind of far from the O. I can come here and go ungroup the letters, and now each letter is its own individual piece that I can move. And so then I can kind of space them out however I want. And I can always regroup them at some point if I would like to. After the text, I'm going to go ahead and delete this. After the text, you have the phrases. So again, just kind of like the images in the projects, items that have already been pre-made and shared through the design space. Most of them, again, you're going to need that Cricut Access, that monthly subscription, or you can buy them for a single fee and use them on any future projects. And the last one is upload. So this is where you would upload your own custom images. Again, I did a video on this a couple weeks ago that I'll go ahead and link below on how to actually add your own images from Google or any search engine or really anything. As long as it's in the compatible file type, you can upload those here and add those to your project. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go back to my canvas by clicking the word canvas up top, and it's going to take me back to my project, my canvas. And I'm just going to show you guys some of the options we have along the top bar. So again, I'm just going to add a shape in here. Once you have something on the board, you have your undo icon. It's going to undo whatever change you just recently made. And then if you realize you want to go back, you can redo and it'll move it back. Once you're selected on the option, there is your operation. So it can be a cut, meaning that your Cricut is actually going to cut this design out. There's a draw. So depending on the type of equipment that you have, you can put the pens in and have this draw it out on a piece of paper. I've seen a lot of people do that with different fonts on cardstock to design your own cards. Foil, this isn't something that I've ever really used, so I can do some research on what this one actually is, but I haven't ever used this one on mine. Scoring, this is, it's actually going to score the image on there, not actually cut through it. So more like an embossing type thing where it leaves it as an indent in whatever image, but it doesn't actually cut through the paper. And you do need a special scoring tool for your device for that. And then there's the print then cut option. So this means that you're actually using a printer to print the image first, and then it will, once it's printed, then it will cut out a shape around it. And we will be uploading a print then cut video in the next couple weeks. It's actually something that I recently started playing with. So once I have a little more information on that, we'll definitely be uploading that video here. In addition to your operation, to the right of that, you have this icon. It's typically grayed out. That's just the color that your image is going to be. So if you have multiple layers of an object for a project that you're doing, you can kind of color coordinate what color that vinyl is going to be. Or sometimes I even do it just to separate pieces so that it's not all in one spot. And then that way, when you go to cut your vinyl or complete your project, everything that is in this one color is going to cut on one piece of vinyl. Everything that is in a second color will be cut on a second piece of vinyl or whatever type of material that you're using. So this is just really to help you break up your projects. Again, you can line it up with what your actual colors are going to be for your project, just so it's more color coordinated. But sometimes if something's going to be vinyl and something's going to be cardstock, I may do the different materials and different colors as well, based off of the project that I'm working on. Right now, I don't have any items selected, so I can click this select all, and it's going to select anything that's on my canvas. My edit button next to that. This is going to be where I can cut and copy. If I have something copied, then my paste option will now show up. So now it's going to give me 2 of what I just had. To the right of the edit icon is the offset icon. This is something that you would use for the print then cut. So as you can see, now that I have the offset, we see this blue line around my triangle. This is where the cut would go for the print then cut. So it would print the triangle in purple and then cut the outer around it, leaving just a very small edge. and you can control how much of an edge you actually want. This is something that most people use when they're creating stickers. So it's just how much of a white border do I want around the image that is printed. And then you can choose if you want rounded corners or sharp corners. So as you can see right now, as you can see right now, these corners are rounded. Or I can go to the more squared sharp edges and they'll be sharp, kind of like the actual triangle itself in here. Okay. And now that black frame around would be what the excess is on my paper for a sticker. Alignment, again, this is just going to be whether it's left, right, and center, kind of like the font. Arrange, so if you're working with multiple layers of objects, so see how I'm moving this here and it's falling behind? I can place that here, click on this image, arrange, and send to back. And now it's going to be all the way in the back. Or you can choose to move objects forward. Let's go ahead and send that to the back. And we'll come up and send this backwards. And now I have my 3 different layers. The flip, this is for if you need to flip a project. So when you are working with vinyl or heat transfer vinyl to be specific, you need to print in a mirrored image. So there is an option when you go to cut to mirror whatever is going to be on that mat. But sometimes, just so I don't forget, I will flip this horizontal so that it does print out backwards for my heat transfer vinyl. And that's because you're cutting it the heat transfer side. So whatever side is going to be touching the materials will be up. So you want it to cut backwards so that when you weed and place the vinyl onto the canvas that you're putting it on, that it's now in the right image. And you can also flip this vertical. So if you want it, upside down, or you're printing something, you're mirroring something, you can do it that way as well. And that way you just don't have to turn here. It gives you that option through the flip. For size, just like with the font size, you can customize and up the width and the height from here, or you can always use the arrows to move back and forth, make smaller or larger, as I showed earlier. Rotate, you have the option to rotate it one by one, or you can always use this little arrow icon and just drag and rotate how you would like it to be placed. Position is just going to be your X and Y axis, so how you want it and where exactly you want it on your canvas. So I can move this over, I can move this up and down. So you can do it with the arrows. For me personally, I just like to drag and drop. It just makes things a little bit easier for myself. But you do have those options along the top as well. Over on the far right-hand side, this is where all of your canvas information is. So all the designs that you have on your canvas, this is where that information will be. So right now I have my text. And if I click on the word text, it's going to highlight my text together. I have my dark purple triangle, my light purple triangle, and then the black offset of my triangle. and it tells you how these are set to cut. So whether they're a basic cut, if I want to do a print then cut, it'll let you know what type of project you're making here. Okay. For these items, so they're all individual items currently, you can group them together so that it makes it easier when you're trying to move projects or align things. So once you get these into the perfect symmetry that you want, you can come over here and click and then hold Control down on your keyboard and click again to select multiples. That's one way. Or you can draw a box around whatever you're trying to group together. From here, once you have the multiple images selected, you can now group them. So whenever I'm moving this or whenever I'm changing the size, it's changing it for both at the same time because they are part of a group. They will still print on individual pieces of paper or material, whatever I have them on, because they're different colors. They just size together so that I can keep everything symmetrical. At any point, I can ungroup, and now they're back to being single images. If I want to duplicate, so I'm happy with the size of something and I need to make multiples, instead of copying and pasting, I can just hit duplicate and it will automatically create a second one in the same shape, in the same color of materials that I'm going to be using. And then you also have the option to delete from here as well. Down here at the bottom, we also have some other options. So again, I'm going to go ahead and select my 2 triangles. And you can actually attach them as well. So this means when they are attached, that they will cut out exactly like this. So let's say that I had this project here. And I want the word hello with these triangles. Okay. So I'm going to select my font and my triangle that I want together, and I'm going to attach these. Meaning this is now all one piece. So when I go to cut, it's going to cut it exactly like this. So exactly how I see it on my screen, hello with the triangle. If you detach them, even though these are the same color material and I have it set up on the same page, when I go to cut, it puts it in what is going to be least waste for my material. Now, you can always move things around on here, but if you want the perfect alignment and have it exactly how you have it on your canvas, you want to make sure that you are attaching those together as long as it is cutting on the same type and color of material. Then there's also slice. So we do have a video on using the slice tool, but I'll go ahead and show you what this looks like. So slice is actually going to cut a hole through with whatever you have lined up. So for example, if I have these 2 triangles, I'm going to slice. And now I have the outer shape of the triangle. And because I sliced it, whatever sliced out of it will also be there. And you can always go back and delete that. The weld option is typically what I use when I am using a cursive text. So when I have text like this, it'll cut out as normal. But when I go to one of my cursive texts, if I want it to look like actual cursive where it's touching, and I'll make this a little bit bigger so it's easier to see. So any text is always going to be separate letters. Again, like I showed earlier, you can always ungroup so that you can move those around as needed. But each letter will be its own individual. So it will cut this line right here between the E and the L, and this line right here between the L and the L. So if you want your cursive to be all one word and all one piece, then this is where the weld would come in. So I'm going to go ahead and select that and weld, and now it's going to weld this project together. So now this ELLO is all one piece. You no longer see those lines that are going to cut to separate the letters. Okay. The last thing down here at the bottom is the contour option. This, and we will be doing a video on this in the next couple of weeks as well. If you have projects that are layered, so it's multiple pieces. For example, I did this project a couple weeks ago. So I made this frog a couple weeks ago for my daughter. And what I did is I wanted the frog itself to be green, obviously. I wanted the eyes, so the actual eyeball, to be black like this. I wanted the white in between the eye for the pupil. I wanted pink here for like a blush, like a rosy cheeks, and pink here for the mouth. And then I wanted white behind where these were. So this contour actually allows you to pick out each piece, and then you can designate the color of material that is going to be cut out on that. That way you're not having to resize it or cut, 5 of the same image. So as you can see, that eyeball is now gone. I only have this because I removed the contour. Okay, and now it's back. So you can actually select so that you can get your solid background in, as well as the different layers that you want on the image itself. Like I mentioned, we'll be doing a video for layering projects here in the next couple weeks. I'll be showing you how to design it in the design space, as well as once it's cut out, some of the best tips and tricks for actually layering them to make sure things line up. So we will be doing our first actual project on the desktop together. So this is really our 101 for the Cricut Design Space. If you have any other questions or different things that maybe you've seen in there that you're not sure what they do or how to use them, please go ahead and leave a comment below so that we can answer those questions and possibly create future videos. Thank you so much again for joining us here at Tulips DIY Treasures. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so that you get alerts every week when we post new videos.